Hi all, let's look at another interesting game from the World's Candidates tournament. So in round 6, Mamedyarov against Vladimir Kramnik. D4, D5, so D4 may be a good choice to avoid the Berlin. So anyway, C4 E6, knight C3 knight F6, C takes D5, and we get knight takes D5 here. E4, knight takes C3, B takes C5, rook B1. This is a little bit rare, of a rare choice here, rook B1, but it has been played before. Bishop E7, bishop B5 check, bishop D7, bishop D3, so you can see that B7 is attacked here. C takes, knight C6. It might be dangerous to take on B7 here. In fact, D4 is attacked anyway, so we just have this humble retreat. Bishop E2. You might think this is a bit odd, but White's got the pawn duo here. He just wants to keep that intact for the moment. Rook C8, knight F3. We have check. Bishop D2, bishop B4. Black's kind of being annoying and forcing another timid-looking move here. Rook B2, but it's necessary. The key thing is to keep the pawn center going, as this may provide opportunities later. Bishop takes, queens come off, king in the center, king takes D2, knight A5, and the rook just drops back to B1 to be able to play rook C1, soon with both rooks connected. So we have a transition quite quickly into this kind of endgame scenario. Rook HC1, F6, H4. White is intending to gain a bit of space on the king side. Rook HD8, bishop D3, A6, king goes to E3, B5, G4, bishop E8, and the knight reroutes knight G1 to go here, and then also the F pawn can be used. Knight C6, knight E2, protecting D4 securely. So throughout this, these centre pawns have been solidly protected. Rook D6, now rook D1 in advance of doubling rooks to be able to protect D4 again. Bishop drops back, protecting D4. Knight A5, a slight Achilles heel perhaps, is that C4 square of White's position. Here, with the pressure off D4, we have the bishop going back, the knight going back, the bishop going back, and Vladimir choosing something else now. H5. We have G5. Now this is interesting. F takes G5 here, because it means that E5 is actually possible in this position, and that is actually played. And now H takes G5, giving Black an outside pass pawn. But look at White's potential central pawn mobility. That's been slightly increased here. At the moment, you see that knight takes E5 is not working because the bishop is holding D1 as well. So tactically, it's secure, the center. And Mamedyarov, in the post interview, said he kind of thought this with E5 could be difficult for Black, and he liked his position, basically. H4, G6. We have knight A5, rook BC1, rook C7. Now here it seems there's a long forcing line. I'll show you. Check. This position is tricky here with certain possibilities. For example, bishop E4, knight takes E5. It's very sharp stuff. Knight C3, knight takes G6, bishop takes, rook takes D4. This is a very, very sharp line, which shows there's quite a lot of dynamic play based on the certain factors of the H pawn and the king in the center. This could be a roughly even position. So there are some very sharp stuff, sharp variations behind the scenes with knight C4 check here. But anyway, rook C7 was played, bishop D3, and now this is a kind of mental collapse by Vladimir Kramnik. I think he was maybe getting tired from all the long games. But here, yeah, he said in post mortem interview, he basically blundered a pawn here. And if you run this game through engines, yeah, the evaluation changes drastically with this next move. So this is a big mistake. Rook dc8. He'd hallucinated the rook would still be on c8 basically, to not be losing a pawn so easily. There are various things black can do here, like just taking on c1 and bishop c6. Make sure that pawn is not going to be lost so quickly. The bishop pointing at h1, this position. If bishop e4, knight c4 check. Rook takes c4. We have this scenario where the rook and the outside passed pawn is enough to at least be even, apparently. If we take this a bit further, you can see that the threat of rook b1 here. So white has to be careful, and it should be dynamically balanced, this position, funny enough. So it looks as though this is a key mistake of the game and based on hallucination. Unfortunately for Vladimir Kramnik, because he played one of the most brilliant games of the tournament, but this is looking like a mistake by his own admission. So it's kind of, yeah, after rook h1, it's tricky now, because if the rook had been on c8, there would have been things like bishop c6 taking, I think, knight c4 check, and the idea of rook f8 check if the king stepped on the f file. So there would have been some interesting stuff if the rook was on c8 here, but it's not. Knight c4 check, king f4, knight b2, bishop e4, b4. This pawn is taken. So this is starting to look like white's in the driving seat now. A pawn up. Yeah, if we count the pawns, it helps. White is a pawn up, and yeah, this looks as though now that pawn can be stopped. King comes back, f4, and white is trying for extra pawn mobility. Here, rook h7, rook g8, a3, a5, bishop c2, king d7. And there's a key move here which increases white's advantage just before any blockade is set up. Can you guess what white plays here on move 48? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video now, white to play. Okay, d5. Yeah, this gives a lot of dynamic play for white, this d4 square in particular. If easy, we get these connected passed pawns which look absolutely rampant. Just visually, it looks as though this is no good for black at all. So we have bishop takes, but it just gives white the d4 square, and this c3 pawn is attacked. Bishop a2, that's taken. And now the rook comes back here. Rook d2, rook h8, rook d7, check, bishop d5. That is spelling now a very dangerous passed pawn, that g pawn. King d4, rook h7, rook g3, and now very nice move to try and stop the Tarrasch rule, which is stopping that pawn going any further. Can you guess how white steps over the Tarrasch rule? White to play here. 5 seconds. Okay, rook h5, yeah, to interfere with this rook with rook g5. Rook g2 pinning, rook g5, rook f2. So white has to put up with losing a piece here, though, if he's going to queen the pawn. g7, bishop e4, queening, rook takes c2, check. It looks a little bit scary, the position of the rook and bishop and the king here. A little bit scary, especially after rook c5. There seems to be, you know, bishop c2 check is pretty dangerous. So actually, rook g2, safety precaution, rook g2 is necessary to be able to snap off that bishop if needed. Bishop f3, and yeah, there are still some dangerous ideas like bishop d1 here, but queen d8 extinguishes everything, and black resigns now. There are all sorts of, yeah, it is just completely lost now. So Vladimir Kramnik didn't seem entirely happy in the post-mortem analysis review. I think he kind of realised he basically blundered a pawn, and there wasn't much to sort of say after that, really. So he did seem a bit down on it. It's a shame, yeah, because he started off the tournament so well, and last couple of rounds haven't been so great. But you know, well done to Mamedyarov, playing this line which he thought would give good chances, and it did. Okay, and is now currently, after this game in this, now leading the tournament, jointly leading the tournament. So comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.